Rebecca works in a large international company. One day, she comes back to the office from lunch and finds her colleagues extremely agitated. They hurry to tell the girl that someone knocked their HR manager out just an hour ago. The police have 3 suspects. Laura is an applicant. She says she was a bit angry with the HR manager. After all, he made her wait for ages, well past the time of her appointment. She stayed outside in the rain and probably caught a cold. And still, Laura says, I would never hit him. Plus, I'm too weak to do it. Gary, who works in the marketing department, claims he hasn't seen the HR manager since he arrived at work. He was having a meeting from the very morning till lunchtime. Jacob, from research and development, tells the police he rode his bike to a coffee shop to get his cappuccino. He's just come back. Who knocked the HR manager out? It was Jacob. Both his bike and his clothes are dry and clean. How is it possible if it's raining outside? Jack is participating in a challenge. He's got to the last stage, which takes place in a desert. If he succeeds now, he'll win $1 million. Jack needs to get a key out of one of the 4 pots. On top of the first pot, there's a bowl filled with a strong acid. The second pot is covered with a bowl full of venomous spiders. In the bowl placed on the third pot, Jack sees a raging fire. A viper is curled up in the bowl covering the fourth pot. Jack isn't allowed to drop the bowls or turn them over. Which pot should he choose? The guy should choose the third bowl. He can put the fire out with the sand and get the key. Jacob is the owner of a small IT company. Larry is his subordinate, exceptionally talented and just as forgetful. More often than not, he seems to be lost in his head. Such things as going on a trip out of the blue without notifying anybody is typical for this genius. Normally, the boss turns a blind eye to Larry's quirks. But this time, an important business meeting is about to start. Jacob needs the data Larry has been working on, but the guy is nowhere to be found. He doesn't answer his phone, so no one can reach him. 1 hour before the meeting has to begin, Jacob can't wait any longer. He switches on Larry's computer, but it's password locked. The man tries some random combination of letters and numbers, but of course it's wrong. Suddenly, a tiny window appears on the screen. In this window, Jacob sees what seems to be a riddle. Little diddle, late late. After puzzling over it for a while, the man types something in the window and sees the home screen. The computer is unlocked. What has Jacob written? The answer to this rebus is too little, too late. Unfortunately, it's not as simple as that. The folder with the needed data is also protected by a password. When Jacob clicks on it, that's what he sees. Write backward all the numbers. Sounds like a tough task. Luckily, Jacob knows how Larry's brain works. He doesn't need much information to write the correct answer and, finally, get the information. What is the password? And there you have it. That's the phrase, all the numbers written backward. Camilla was terrified of dogs. One day she was jogging in the park and noticed a large dog sitting near the bench. It looked unfriendly. The leash attached to the dog's collar was 3 feet long. Camilla decided it would be safe to pass by if there was at least 7 feet of space between her and the pooch. But even being on a leash, the dog still managed to bite her. How come? Sadly, the leash wasn't tied to anything. David's company develops new apps for smartphones. Right now, he's looking for a designer. He's got hundreds of applicants, but has chosen just 3 of them. Angela's resume says, "I'm 23 years old. I don't have a lot of experience, but I'm a fast learner and have already designed similar applications." Helen wrote in her resume, "I'm 26 and have 4 years of work experience. You should hire me because I've created lots of TikTok stories that have gone viral." And Eric's resume claims he's 28 years old with 7 years of work experience. He's designed tons of apps. He's been working for Google since the company was launched. David can hire only one person, but it's okay because only one applicant hasn't lied in their resume. Who is it? Eric has just 7 years of work experience, but Google was officially launched in 1998. There are no stories on TikTok, meaning Helen couldn't create them. David hired Angela. Even though she hasn't been working that long, she's honest and has a nice portfolio. Kevin, a security guard in an amusement park, finds a boy standing near a roller coaster. The kid says his name's Nick. He doesn't know where his dad is. Kevin takes Nick to his office and makes an announcement. Soon after that, 2 men show up at the door. The first exclaims, "We were in a cafe, but after eating my burger, I felt so sick I had to spend almost 20 minutes in the bathroom. When I got out, Nick wasn't around. I was so worried." The other man interrupts him. "We rode a roller coaster together. Then I told Nick to wait there and went to get us some hot dogs." Which man is Nick's father? Nick is too small to ride the roller coaster, which means the second man is lying. The boy's dad is the unlucky guy with food poisoning. Aiden fell madly in love with a beautiful girl, Ella. He tried to spend all his time with her. The man bought her expensive presents and flowers, invited her to the best restaurants, organized yacht trips. They traveled the world, stayed in famous hotels, and went shopping for designer clothes. In less than a year, Aiden became a millionaire. How is it possible? Well, before meeting Ella, the guy was a billionaire. Carter had a fast and successfully developing company until his main investor went bankrupt. Carter was desperate. He went to visit his best friend Justin, a coffee shop owner. "Cheer up," Justin exclaimed. "One rich businessman visits my cafe almost every day. He's here today, too. He's very mysterious and doesn't have any social media accounts. Few people know about his wealth, but I do. Go and introduce yourself." Justin pointed toward the back of the coffee shop. Carter went there and saw 3 men. Uh-oh. He hadn't asked his friend which one was the wealthy entrepreneur. He looked at the men attentively. In no time, he figured out who was the one he needed. It isn't the guy in the middle. He has a $1 store bag. The one on the right could be rich, but he's recording an Instagram story. And the businessman isn't active on any social media. This means the man Carter needs is on the left. Carter was right. The guy turned out to be a billionaire. He was impressed with Carter's business, but before signing the papers, he mentioned one condition. Carter had to prove he was prepared for all kinds of stressful situations. The man had nothing to do but agree to the challenge. After that, Carter was taken to a remote house and left alone. He was locked in a large room with no windows and 3 doors. Suddenly, the ceiling started to go down. At the same time, the room began to fill with water. Carter knew that behind the first door there was a powerful whirlpool that would take him under the surface in no time. The second door was hiding a school of vicious piranhas. And behind the third one, there was a deep pit with sharp wooden spikes at the bottom. Which door should Carter choose to save his life? Carter picked the third door. Once the pit filled with water, he swam over the spikes and successfully escaped from the trap. When he returned to the office, the billionaire had already signed the contract. 3 friends agreed to hang out together on Friday night. One of them, Brian, was tasked with bringing pizza. But the guy was running extremely late. His friends were starving. Strangely, Brian wasn't picking up their calls. But in an hour or so, he sent them a selfie. In the photo, he was standing next to his car. In the following message, he wrote he had run out of gas. He was at a gas station tanking his car up. But his friends didn't believe Brian's excuses. Why? In the picture, it's clearly seen the guy's got an electric car. It doesn't need gas.
Take a look at your ears. Aren't they amazing? An average human ear hears frequencies from 20 Hz to 20 kHz. But each person is unique when it comes to the functioning of our sense organs. Some of us struggle to hear neighbors whispering just behind the door. Meanwhile, rare lucky persons have a natural absolute pitch. They can recognize any note in any octave. We suggest you take these cool hearing tests that will help reveal your hidden hearing superpowers. Yes! First of all, let's check where you're currently standing in the frequency spectrum. Put on your headphones and make sure you're in a quiet place with no background noises. If you're surrounded by people, ask them to stay quiet for the next minute. We'll travel across and beyond the human audio spectrum and play some sound frequencies a human ear usually can't perceive. As soon as you notice that your ears begin to hear the sound, stop the video. The number you'll see on the screen is your current result. Ready? Let's go! Great job! Well, are you surprised by the result? If it's higher than average, congratulations! But if not, don't worry. The older people get, the harder it becomes for them to hear high-frequency sounds. This may reduce the ability to hear bird songs and even some consonants like S, H, or F. If the result is very bad, try this test again. Chances are that your headphones can't play the invisible frequencies properly. Or maybe the sound was off at your computer. But if you're perfectly sure that your gadgets are fine, perhaps it would be wise to see a doctor and check your hearing. Now you know your hearing's range. But guess who can hear beyond these limits? Bats, pigeons, elephants, dogs, dolphins, and some other animals. But who do you think is the best listener in the world? Please welcome our champion, a moth. Researchers claim that moths can hear better than anyone else in the world. One study showed that the greater wax moth, also known as Galleria melanella, is capable of hearing frequencies up to 300 kHz. It means that their hearing is 15 times better than humans. And now, let's go ahead and check your potential to develop an absolute musical pitch. This rare superpower is basically the ability of a person to identify or recreate a given musical note without the use of a reference tone. Some of the greatest classical composers, including Beethoven, Chopin, and Mozart, used to have this ability, and it's not so rare in the modern music industry.
Oh yeah.
Studies based on a survey of more than 600 musicians showed that the older people were when they started training, the less likely they were to gain perfect pitch. Meanwhile, the majority of polled musicians who began training by the age of 6 used to have it. And among those who started music classes before the age of 4, some 40% had perfect pitch. Also, you're more likely to develop this ability if at least one of your relatives has it. So, are you ready to challenge your ears? You're gonna need to put on your earphones once again. Take a deep breath and don't forget to count the right answers. Here's a small version of a classic piano keyboard. Let's go ahead and refresh your memory. This is what the 12 notes sound like. We'll use this random music to confuse your perception just a little bit. And let's begin the quiz. Try to guess this note. Well, any ideas? It was G. What about this note? C. Focus your ears and let's listen to the next one. Well, it was A. What about this sound? Can you guess it? F. Let's go ahead and recognize this note. A once again. And what can you say about this one? That was F sharp. Here's the next sound. Can you guess the note? B. Any idea what it might be? A sharp, also known as B flat. Next sound, can you spot the note? C flat. Can you identify this one? G again. Well done. If you've guessed more than 7 notes correctly, maybe it's time for you to run to the nearest musical school and become a famous musician before it's too late. Meanwhile, if your result is between 3 and 6 notes, your musical ear is still quite good. And if you didn't guess a single note, don't be upset. Regular training gets water from a flint. Our next test will reveal both your hearing skills and your knowledge of musical instruments. This game is very easy. Listen to the audio carefully and try to guess the instrument. Don't forget to calculate all the correct answers. Here's the first sound playing. Does it seem familiar? What do you say? It's a French horn playing. What about this melody? Sitar. Next audio. Any ideas? Steel pan. What about this one? Acoustic guitar. Great job! Let's go ahead and spot this instrument. It's a flute. Next audio. Does it sound familiar? Ukulele. Let's explore this mysterious sound. It's called the rain stick. Next instrument. Any ideas? Marimba. Here's the next melody. Does it seem familiar? Organ. Next instrument. Does it sound familiar? Cymbal. What about this one? What do you say? Acoustic guitar? Nope, banjo. You should recognize this one right away. Any ideas? Violin. What about this instrument? What do you say? Just kidding, it's the sound of a purring cat. Let's go ahead and investigate this audio. Harmonica. Any idea what this might be? Kazoo. It looks like a funny little whistle. Next instrument. Have you guessed? It's a lute. What about this one? Maybe electric piano? Nope, it's a harp. Next instrument. Any ideas? This beautiful thing is called cabasa. Next audio. Does it sound familiar? It's a clarinet. You're doing great. We're almost at the finish line, so stay focused, and let's listen to the next one. It's a bass guitar. Next audio. Does it sound familiar? Piano. What about this instrument? This sound is called throat singing, and it's made by a singer, not by a musical instrument. Next audio. Have you guessed? Castanets. Any idea what this might be? This is the sound of water glasses. And finally, can you spot this instrument? Does it seem familiar? It's an accordion. And now, let's calculate your score. If you've answered all 25 questions correctly, congratulations, you're a genius. If your score is between 17 and 24, well done. Your ears and knowledge are brilliant. You're either involved in the music industry, or you should think about doing so. If you gave from 9 to 16 correct answers, you're doing well. While listening to music, you're probably good at distinguishing the sounds of different instruments. And if you gave less than 9 answers, perhaps it's time to expand your knowledge in this field. You'll be surprised by the variety of musical instruments. In fact, nobody knows for sure the exact number of musical instrument types all over the planet. You can find more than 500 titles in various encyclopedias, but it's far from the actual number. After all, any musical instrument has dozens of different modifications and hundreds of manufacturing variations. To make the process easier, the instruments traditionally fall into one of 6 major categories, depending on the sound source: woodwind, bowed strings, brass, percussion, keyboard, and the guitar family. We're aware that musical instruments have been entertaining people for ages. But what is the oldest musical instrument in the world? So far, this honorary title belongs to the Neanderthal flute. It was made around 60,000 years ago. Contemporary musicians have reconstructed this instrument, and its sound reminds of the modern bamboo flute. But music is not only an entertaining tool, it's also very helpful when you want to relax or focus on your work or studies. The 432 Hz frequency is considered ideal because it resonates with the Schumann resonance of 8 Hz, and it's known for its deeply calming and comforting effects. One study from Italy showed that music tuned to 432 Hz slows down the heart rate when compared to 440 Hz. So be careful with what goes into your ears.
That's it for today. So hey, if you pacified your curiosity, then give the video a like and share it with your friends. Or if you want more, just click on these videos and stay on the bright side.